Ferguson was remarkably large and entirely black. And speaking of his intelligence, my wife, who at heart was not a little tinkered with superstition, made frequent allusion to the ancient popular notion which regarded all black cats as witches in disguise. Not that she was ever serious upon this point, and I mention this to be remembered. Pluto, this was the cat's name, was my favorite pet and playmate. I alone fed him, and he attended me wherever I went about the house. It was even with difficulty that I could prevent him from following me through the streets. Our friendship lasted in this manner for several years, during which my general temperament and character, through the instrumentality of the fiend intemperance, had experienced a radical alteration for the worse. But my disease grew upon me. For what disease is like alcohol? I suffered myself to use intemperate language to my wife. At length, I even offered her personal violence. My pets, of course, were made to feel the change in my disposition. I not only neglected, but amused them, and at length even Pluto, who was now becoming old and consequently somewhat peevish, began to experience the effects of my ill temper. One night, returning home much intoxicated from one of my haunts about town, I fancied that the cat avoided my presence. He inflicted a slight wound upon my hand with his teeth. The fury of the demon instantly possessed me. I took my waistcoat pocket penknife, opened it, and grasped the poor beast by the throat, and deliberately cut out one of his eyes from the socket. I blush, I burn, I shudder, while I relate the damnable atrocity. When reason returned in the morning, I experienced a sentiment half of horror, half of remorse for the crime of which I had been guilty. I soon drowned in wine all the memory of the deed. In the meantime, the cat slowly recovered. The socket of the lost eye presented, it is true, a frightful appearance, but he no longer appeared to suffer any pain. He fled in extreme terror at my approach. I had so much of my old heart left as to be the first grieved by this evident dislike on the part of a creature which had once loved me. But this feeling soon gave place to irritation. Beaming from my eyes and with the bitterest remorse at my heart, I hung it because I knew that it had loved me, and because I felt that it had given me no reason of offense. I hung it because I knew that in so doing, I was committing a sin, a deadly sin, that would so jeopardize my immortal soul as to place it, if such a thing were possible, even beyond the reach of infinite mercy of the most merciful and most terrible God. One night, of the day on which the cruel deed was done, I was aroused from sleep by the cry of fire. The whole house was blazing. It was with great difficulty that my wife, made our escape from the conflagration. The destruction was complete. On the day succeeding the fire, I visited the ruins. The walls, with one exception, had fallen in. I approached and saw, as if graven in vast relief upon the white surface, a figure of a gigantic cat. The impression was given with an accuracy truly marvelous. There was a rope around the animal's neck. When I first beheld this apparition, my wonder and my terror were extreme. The cat, I remembered, had been hung in the garden adjacent to the house. Upon the alarm of the fire, the garden had been immediately filled by a crowd, by some of whom the animal must have been cut down from the tree and thrown an open window into my chamber. For months I could not rid myself of the phantasm of the cat. One night I sat half stupefied in a den of more than infamy. My attention was suddenly drawn to some black object. I approached it and touched it with my hand. It was a black cat, a very large one, fully as large as Pluto, and closely resembling him in every respect. upon my touching him, he immediately arose, purred loudly, rubbed against my hand, and appeared delighted with my notice. When I reached the house, it domesticated itself at once and began immediately a great favor with my wife. For my own part, I soon found a dislike to its arising within me. Its evident fondness of my wife rather disgusted and annoyed me. What added no doubt to my hatred of the beast was the discovery on the morning after I brought it home that, like Pluto, it had also been deprived of one of its eyes. I followed my footsteps with a pertinacity which it would be difficult to make the reader comprehend. At such times, although I longed to destroy it with a blow, I yet withheld from so doing, partly by a memory of my former crimes, but chiefly, let me confess it at once, by absolute dread of the beast. I'm almost ashamed to own that the terror and horror with which the animal inspired me had been heightened by one of the merest it would be possible to conceive. My wife had called my attention more than once to the character with black hair. It was now the representation of an object that I shuddered to admit had killed, and for this, above all, I loathed and dreaded, and would have rid myself of the monsters had I dared. It was now, I say, the image of a hideous, of a ghastly thing, of the gallows. Oh, mournful and terrible engine of horror and of crime, of agony and of death! I started hourly from dreams of unuttered fear to find the hot breath of the thing on my face and its vast weight, an incarnate nightmare that I had no power to shake off, eventually upon my heart. Evil thoughts became my sole intimates, the darkest and most evil thoughts. The moodiness of my usual temper increased to hatred of all things, of all mankind. My uncomplaining wife, alas, was the most usual and most patient of the sufferers. One day she accompanied me upon some household errand into the cellar. The cat followed me down the stairs and, nearly throwing me headlong, exasperated me to madness, uplifting an axe, and forgetting in my wrath the child's dread which had hitherto stayed my hand, I aimed a blow at the animal, which, of course, would have been proved instantly fatal had it descended as I wished. But this blow was arrested by the hand of my wife. Goaded by the interference into a rage more than demoniacal, I withdrew my arm from her grasp and buried the axe in her brain. She fell dead upon the spot with a groan. The hideous murder accomplished, I set myself forthwith and with deliberation to the task of concealing the body. I determined to wall it up in the cellar. For a purpose such as this cellar was well adapted, its walls were loosely constructed. I made no doubt that I could readily displace the bricks at this point, insert the quartz, and wall the whole as before, so that no eye could detect suspicious. The second and third day had passed, and still my tormentor came not. My happiness was supreme. Upon the fourth day of the assassination, a party of police came, very unexpectedly, into the house and proceeded again to make rigorous investigation of the premises. Secure, however, in the place of mind of my concealment, I felt no embarrassment whatever. But then they descended into the cellar. I quivered not a muscle. My heart beat calmly as that of one who slumbers in innocence. I walked the cellar end to end. The police were thoroughly satisfied. Gentlemen, I said, at last, as the party ascended the steps, I delight to have allayed your suspicions. I wish you all health and a little more courtesy. By the by, gentlemen, this was a well-constructed house. I may say an excellent, well-constructed house. These walls are going, gentlemen. I answered by voice. I was answered by voice within the tomb, by a cry at first muffled and broken, like the sobbing of a child, then quickly swelling into a long, loud, and continuous scream, utterly inhuman, a howl, a wailing shriek, half of horror, half of triumph. The corpse, already greatly decayed and clotted with gore, stood erect before the eyes of the spectators. Upon its head, the solitary fire, sat the beast whose craft had seduced me into murder, whose voice had consigned me into the hangman. I had walled the monster up within the tomb.